Molweni guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Tokoloshe, a horror movie released in 2018. Before I go too far, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. We're almost done with the 12 days of Christmas so that we can begin 2020 officially on the 31st of January with the movie that's going to be released on that day. With that being said, let's get into the movie. The synopsis for Tokoloshe: Busi, a young, destitute woman with dangerously repressed emotions, lands a job as a cleaner at a rundown hospital in the heart of Johannesburg. Desperate for the money so she can bring her young assistant to Johannesburg, she must cope despite the predatory and corrupt hospital manager. When Busi discovers an abandoned young girl in the hospital, she believes she is tormented by a supernatural force. Busi must face her own demons from her past in order to save the child from the abusive monster that pursues them both relentlessly. Tokoloshe stars Petronella Tsuma, Kwande Nkosi, David Menar, Harriet Manamela, and Mandla Shongwe. For me, this movie was definitely a practice in don't think too much. So it's been a few days since I watched the movie, and here I am still thinking about it. Thinking about the writing and thinking about the lack of terror that the characters in the movie displayed from essentially being stalked by a supernatural force. And no, I am not desensitized from watching American horror movies. I'm the type of person who watches horror movies during the day with the curtains wide open. And the first time I watched this movie, the first time I watched Tokoloshe was at night. And to be honest, the only time I was on edge was during that chase scene between Busi and her boss. Her boss, who happens to have a monthly subscription to Weinstein Digest. And that was it. That was literally the only time I was on edge. It was the only time I was not questioning what I was watching and I was actually involved in the story. I think during that scene, the writers played on a fear that a lot of women in this country have, and that is being attacked by a man. After that scene, I was switched on and logged in, and I started noticing things that the writers did not intend for us to notice, or maybe I was just thinking too much again. Okay, so at some point, I actually thought that Grace was a figment of Busi's imagination, because the nurse was not concerned with Gracie at all. So in my mind, I was like, okay. Gracie represents small Lindy. Hear me out. What if this supernatural force, in quotation marks, took the form of Gracie to lure Busi in and harm her? Mamela, when I say I was thinking too much, I literally was thinking too much because I couldn't figure out what was going on actually. And I think too much when I watch horror movies to distract myself from the horror that I'm expecting in the movie. Now remember, the name of the movie is Tokoloshe, so I'm expecting a visual representation of all those things we used to hear about growing up. I'm expecting to be scared. I'm expecting to regress into the child I was the first time I was told about this creature and its existence. Kodwa ke, this movie was more of a drama than a horror/thriller for me. The evil in the film was not necessarily the creature, but the men. Busi's boss, the man who abused his power, he was evil. Busi's father, the man who molested her and Lindy as children, he was evil. And even the landlord, that man was a bit slimy, if we're being honest. That, to me, could have been the evil in the movie. This movie could have been structured in a way that the terror is the threat of violence. The terror could have been the men in the movie that put our lead character in a constant flight or fight mode. That way, we as the viewers would have been on edge during the whole movie. Instead, we were given very little of the monster, very little of Tokoloshe. We don't know its origins. We don't know why it's feared or why it should be feared or why people were telling young children stories about it. We don't even know why it attached itself to Gracie and why it stalked them and followed them from the hospital to Busi's house to the village somewhere in KZN. I'm even looking at my notes right now, the notes I took while I was watching this movie, and they're littered. My notes are littered with question marks. Because as much as I tried to suspend my disbelief, I couldn't bring myself to completely shutting my brain down. I couldn't bring myself to stop myself from questioning the writing. If you want to see my notes, they'll be in the description bar below. But yeah, here are some of the questions I have. Here are some of the questions that I had while watching the movie. So, for reasons explained in the movie, Busi takes Grace out of the hospital to her flat. That same night that they're there, Tokoloshe is there as well. We don't know why it followed them from the hospital to Busi's flat, but we know it did. So I'm asking myself, why did it follow them around? Is it attached to Gracie's toys? Or is it attached to Gracie? And if it's attached to Gracie, why is it attached to Gracie? Is it something about her that draws it to her? But we never find out. And then there's that scene where all the plates in Busi's house go flying out of the cupboards. Like that was a classic horror movie trope. But instead of Busi reacting to this mind-blowing event like a human being, freaking out, running out of the flat, grabbing the child and running out of the flat, instead of her doing that, she grabs Grace and she goes to sleep. She grabs Grace and she goes to sleep. I mean, I guess you could look at her actions as the actions of somebody who's numb and emotionally shut down and who copes with danger by going to sleep. You could look at it like that. She just logged off. But now that Busi has somebody to take care of, now that Busi took it upon herself to take care of another person, somebody who cannot defend themselves, wouldn't her maternal instincts kick in at that point? Wouldn't it make more sense for her to take this child that she has taken under her care out of the environment that's causing her trauma? Am I thinking too much again? But Busi just went to sleep. And I was asking myself, how, Sissy? How are you going back to sleep? There's an evil spirit in your home, an angry spirit. It's damaging your property. It's hurting the child that you're taking in your care, and you're going back to sleep. How? Where? Jani? Who wrote this? And it's got nothing to do with the actress. Let's talk about the actress. Let's talk about Petronella Tuma, the actress who plays Busi. Petronella is actually a very competent actress. I remember the first time I saw her, it was on SABC 1 during that acting competition that Utawa Mukhale was a judge at. I think I'll look for it, but it was called Class Act. That was the first time that we saw her.
A warm welcome to you in studio and you at home. And you're watching the very first live episode of Class Act Season 2. And we are really excited to present our 10 finalists to you. And this year's action men and action women in the making. Let's meet them face to face. Give it up for Ephraim. Give it up for Mandisa. Jack Palance. Please give it up for Rosa. Abdul. Her name is Dumi for Fuchs. Petronella, Malo, Nina, yes, Mandisa. This is your top 10. Give it up. acted class act of Vux no Petronella. Let's see if they were on top of their game.
Shoot her first.
Excuse me? A minute ago you were swearing undying loyalty.
Things have changed.
That was the first time that we saw her. Petronella did such a great job that she landed in the top 10. So it's clear that she knows how to act. Not only did she land in the top 10, she landed a long-term role in a very loved soapy. I think it was Rhythm City. If not Rhythm City, Scandal, or both. She was on Rhythm City and on Scandal. But she went from being in class act and being in the top 10 to being on our TV screens 5 days a week for a very long time. So she knows how to act. Her acting is not what I'm questioning here. I'm questioning the writing. In this movie, Petronella only emoted 2 emotions. She was either unhappy or she was angry. If she wasn't whimpering, she was shouting. That's it. And just because someone is sullen and sulky, that doesn't make us empathize with what's going on in their life on the screen. What makes us empathize is a good story being told. Involve us, draw us in, paint the picture for us, show us, don't tell us. That's what's going to make us empathize with the character. Not her being angry or unhappy and crying the whole time. Now that I think about it, Tokoloshe could have been separated into 3 different movies if they wanted to. The first one, Busi, could have... Okay, here's my description for the first one. Busi, the night shift cleaner who adopts a sickly orphan girl and struggles to keep her healthy and alive. Or it could be Escape from Elalini, Busi and Linda's story on how they fought their father and managed to leave the rules only for Lindy's timeline to end up exactly how it does in the original movie. Just that now things take place in Johannesburg and Busi is forced to return home and face their demons. The last one, Tokoloshe, a horror where the creature, the spirit, the supernatural force terrorizes a young child until she meets her superwoman, until she meets Busi. I know that sounds like the movie we just watched, but it isn't. In this movie, the Tokoloshe plotline wasn't handled so well, and we only saw things relating to Tokoloshe for exactly 10 to 15 minutes in the whole movie. But in the one that I'm talking about, we would actually experience the terror that the name carries. I don't have a conclusion for this. I do want to say this though. I would love to watch a horror movie that's set as Laleni, where the villains are humans and not some supernatural force. By the way, this movie was written by Jerome Pikwane and Richard Kuzman. Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video.